As the introduction said, we're going to be talking about Commerce 2.0, some of the new and improved features. Before we get started, I'm just curious kind of who's in the room. Is there anybody out there who is currently working or has worked with Commerce 1.0 or 1.x? Is anybody still implementing on 1.x? How about 2.0? Okay. Good, so we've got a mix. We've got some people that are probably already experienced with some of these commerce features and some people that are new. We're going to focus on a lot of the new features, but we'll also touch on some of the other features that have been around for a little while, but I think are relevant to all of us as Liferay developers. Three main areas I'm going to cover. The first one is better B2B customer experiences. I want to point out two things there. We do say B2B, and we talk B2B a lot. The reason is that because of Liferay's background and the types of solutions that we've delivered, I think we're in a unique position to offer a really compelling B2B commerce solution. But that does not mean at the expense of B2C. So the things that apply to B2B also typically apply to B2C. We work very well in those solutions as well, but we tend to use that B2B just because that's kind of a common theme with a lot of our solutions. The other thing that we're talking about is better customer experiences, not necessarily traditional commerce experiences. And so there are probably some people that are out in the audience right now that are thinking, well, I don't really need a commerce solution. I don't need a shopping cart. I don't have an online checkout. We sell through our sales reps. And that's okay. Hopefully some of the features that I'm going to show you today, you'll be able to find ways to use those in any type of customer experience that you're building. We also want to spend a little bit of time talking about how we can improve operations and empower your sales and service reps, some of the new features that are in commerce that will make it easier for them to do business. And we're going to wrap it up by talking a little bit about some of the features that will help with data integration needs. Okay. So why is it so important to have a world-class commerce solution today? We all know B2B and high-value B2C purchases are typically not impulse buys. Our B2B buyers are doing a lot of research. They're spending their time getting to know products. They want to make sure that they're selecting the right product. So these are savvy customers that focus a lot on research. Where are they doing that research? Well, more and more of them are doing that research online. So a lot of times that initial maybe first step is a simple Google search. And one of our challenges is how do we get them from that Google result page onto our site? It's so critical to get them onto our site because we want to be able to influence the rest of their customer journey. We want to be able to present the information that's relevant to them and make sure they understand the value that our company can provide. Another reason that it's so important is that more and more of those B2B buyers want to buy directly from you. Traditionally, that hasn't always been the case. In some industries, that's still not the case. Some industries are kind of further along in this process than others. But more and more B2B purchasers want to cut out the middleman and come directly to the person that is producing the good rather than a distributor who's merely selling the goods. Now, in some industries, that hasn't been the case, and that can be a little challenging. I'm thinking of manufacturing in particular. A lot of times manufacturers they're used to having that buffer between the customer and themselves. And so that can be a little scary. But it also presents tremendous opportunities. If we are dealing more directly with the customer, and not only are we going to get better margins, we're also going to get better feedback from the customer, increase our visibility. We're going to tighten that feedback loop so that the people that are actually using our goods and services are going to be more easily able to talk to the people that are producing those goods and services. Okay? So where does Liferay Commerce fit into this? We lovingly refer to this as the snail diagram. If you've been to a commerce talk, you've probably seen this before. I was joking with some of the people before the presentation started that I really didn't want to use this slide, but it does such a good job kind of illustrating where commerce fits in and how commerce can help you. So historically, Liferay and Liferay technology has been great for building kind of that opening part of the process. We have tools that make it easier to build marketing sites to help you acquire, educate, engage your customers, get them up to that point where they're ready to buy from you. And then we have tools that make it very easy to build really compelling customer portals. So we have the tools that you need to kind of retain those customers, to grow that relationship over time. But historically, we didn't have anything to help you convert that customer to actually complete the transaction online. And so you were left with a couple of options. Either you go find another technology and integrate it and deal with that cost of integration, or you build it yourself. You get Service Builder out and you start going through that, and you realize that that's not a trivial thing. And so commerce was introduced to fill that gap, that green section up there, during that actual conversion stage. So Commerce 1.0 came out last year. Went through a couple of iterations of 1.0, and then earlier this summer, Commerce 2.0 came out. With the focus on some key areas. One, to help you more easily build those customer experiences. So we're currently at Commerce 2.06. Hopefully Commerce 2.07 will be coming out very soon with support for Liferay 7.2. I know that's a question that we asked a lot, and support is going to be available very soon. If you are not already on Commerce 2, definitely worth taking a look at what it takes to upgrade, and I'd be happy to talk with you after the presentation. We also have a couple more presentations that are happening today and tomorrow that are going to be touching on more of the technical details. I'm going to be focusing on more of the features, and then this afternoon, actually this evening, Jacqueline and Josh are going to talk about the technical details of implementation. They've gone through an upgrade from Commerce 1 to 2, and they can also talk about that. And then tomorrow there's going to be a presentation. Igor and Ivica are going to be talking about the data integration. So hopefully this talk will get you interested in learning a little bit more about those as well. Okay. So looking specifically at the features we added in 2.0, probably one of the biggest changes between 1.x and 2.0 is the introduction of the multi-site catalog. So based on the feedback of those early customers, we realized that they're trying to implement more complex B2B scenarios. They weren't necessarily doing the simple, I'm the vendor, you're the purchaser. They were trying to do things like white labeling or franchising or building more complex relationships. And one of the problems was, at that time, catalogs were tied to sites, and so you had to do a lot of replication. And so what we've done with Commerce 2.0 is we've taken the product catalog and we moved it out of the site level. We've brought it up into the global scope in the control panel. And now you can use a catalog across any Liferay site or any Liferay channel. Now, the real question about catalogs is who's going to be managing this content? Who's going to be managing my products? That's going to determine if you need multiple catalogs or not. In addition to the multi-site catalogs, we also introduced channels. Channels, you can think of channels just like you would traditional sales channels. And so a traditional sales channel, you would have maybe your direct-to-consumer, you would have your distributor, you might have an online option as well. Well, with Liferay Commerce channels, these are just different ways that we can make our products available. So I might create a site for a set of products I want to offer to my B2B marketplace, and then I might have another site that I want to optimize for B2C, and I may have maybe another site for some other specialized use case. But with channels, one of the nice things is that your end product that you're building doesn't have to be a Liferay site. So using the open APIs we'll talk about a little bit later, and using some of the connectors that we're going to be introducing in the future, you can now plug your Liferay back-end catalog into multiple front-end marketplaces. And I think this is something that they're going to talk on a little bit in that talk this evening with Jacqueline and Josh, is how you can make your catalogs available to external outlets as well. So remember, a catalog now is really about who's managing a set of products. There's a catalog lives at that global scope. Products belong to one catalog, so a product can only be in one catalog, but it can be offered up for sale through multiple channels, and you can control visibility to those products using accounts and account groups. Okay. So a lot more flexibility, a lot more power than what you had in Commerce 1.0. Now, in addition to the catalogs and the channels, another new feature, we've done a couple of things to make it easier to work with more complex products. So in Liferay Commerce 2.0, we introduced a feature called Bill of Materials, or BOM, B-O-M. If you have been using Commerce 2.0 and you've been working in the product tab or the product application, you may have noticed there's a new tab there, and it may have been a little cryptic and hard to decipher. We didn't have a lot of documentation on it, but the documentation is coming. And what the Bill of Materials, or the BOM, allows you to do is to take an exploded product view and map that complex exploded product into the constituent parts that make it up. And so really tremendously user-friendly. You upload a diagram or an image of your complex product, and then using the application, you can just go through, just click and tag the different parts of your exploded view, and then link them to a part that exists in the Liferay catalog. So it's just simply click and select, and then there's another widget that you can place on the front end of your storefront so that customers can go in, look at that complex product, drill down into it, and then select the product and know that they're selecting the right product for that specific application. Okay. Related to that, there's another application that we've added. It's actually called Application, that works hand in hand with the Bill of Materials. So with applications, what you're doing is you're defining an application, and then you are making a relationship to a group of parts that applies to that application. So the easiest way to think about this would be your classic vehicle example of your year, make, and model. You define a year, make, and model, and then you can go through and select all of the parts that are associated with that year, make, and model. So again, as a customer, your customer is going to be assured that when they are selecting a part, they're selecting a part that will actually fit the application that they're looking for. Okay. Now, these new features for the catalogs and the products, these are building on top of what was already there in Commerce 1.0. Commerce 1.0 had all of the kind of standard features you would expect, so product titles and images and all of the metadata that you need to make SEO possible. Product options or variations, product specifications, as well as a framework and actually a widget to do product comparisons. So even if you're not necessarily looking for a commerce solution, pretty much everybody in here, we probably have products. And many of us have probably used a content management system, maybe Liferay's content management system, to try to build a product catalog. So I would definitely urge you, if you have that need, if you find yourself needing to build content or build a product catalog, before you go to the CMS, before you go and start creating your service XML, take a look at what Liferay has. Even if you're not going to use that buy or add to order button, you can still get a tremendous amount of value out of the catalog that we ship. It's designed to be extensible. We provide options for product renderers, so you can make your product look however you like. You get a unique renderer for each product type, and you also get a renderer for the product listing page and the product details page. And I think Jacqueline and Josh's presentation, they're going to talk a little bit more about product renderers. But again, another way that you can use commerce without necessarily using all of the other aspects of commerce. Okay. Now we've got different ways of managing products, we've got different ways of displaying products. Now we have to get our products in front of the right people. And I think we've all probably been in that scenario where we're getting products presented to us and we're wondering, why are you showing me this? What is the relevancy of this? B2B shoppers, at the end of the day, go home and become B2C shoppers. They're using other websites, they're using sites that have really good recommendations. And so when they are doing their shopping for their day job, they expect that same type of meaningful product recommendations. And Liferay Commerce 2.0, we've introduced some features that can help with that. The main feature that we have, so we've introduced machine learning, and we've kind of focused on kind of 3 different areas. So the first area that we focus on is providing recommendations to the end user, to the customer themselves. So when the customer comes to the website, they're going to get meaningful recommendations based on one of 3 different criteria, or 3 different levels. One of them is based on the content. So the content that's in my cart or the page that I'm looking at. Liferay's machine learning algorithms are going to look at all of the other products that are in the catalog and look at that metadata and try to find meaningful recommendations. Another one is based on products that you have bought, so also bought recommendations. So things that you've bought, people that typically buy these things also tend to buy these things. And then the last one is user or account-based recommendations. So customers or users that are like you typically buy products like this. And we've already had the ability to create these static recommenders for cross-sell, for upsell, for any kind of relationship that you want. What we're doing now is in the publisher, the product publisher, you can now hook into these machine learning-based recommenders as well. Now, these 3 are just kind of the tip of the iceberg. More recommenders will be coming. And just like the rest of the product, it's really designed to be extensible. So we give you the framework, and you can create as many recommenders as you want based on whatever is unique about your business, whatever is unique about selling to your customers. So very flexible, very extensible. Now, we also take that power of machine learning, we kind of point it back at ourselves, and we use machine learning to help us and help our merchandisers make better decisions about the types of products we want to group together and cross-sell. So again, once we have machine learning implemented and turned on and analyzing the data, we're going to start to get notifications sent to administrators with suggestions for products that we may want to consider either cross-promoting or cross-selling, or maybe even putting them together into grouped product types. So again, just trying to help our merchandisers make better informed decisions. Okay. All right, so turning the focus a little bit away from the products and the catalogs, we want to talk about how Liferay Commerce can actually help bring your sales and service reps into the digital channel. Now, introducing a digital commerce solution can sometimes be a little overwhelming, a little intimidating to a sales team. Sometimes there is a sentiment of, I'm being automated out of a job, you're not going to need me anymore. And we feel at Liferay Commerce that's really not the case at all. We are not trying to eliminate anybody, we're trying to make those salespeople more valuable to your organization and allow them to really be salespeople. One of the first things that typically happens in a digital transformation with regards to any kind of commerce solution is self-service. And self-service is a really good place to start. One of the things we want to make sure that we do is try to move our customers away from the phone and the fax and the email-based orders and empower them to make their own purchasing decisions and complete as many transactions as possible online. And if we can do that, that right there should hopefully free up our sales reps and allow them to do other things that provide more value. But self-service really isn't enough. I think anybody out there today, they're going to have a product that's going to do self-service. What we're trying to do with Liferay Commerce is to move beyond that self-service into what we call digitally enabled selling. And I think once we bring our sales reps and once we bring our service reps into this process, then we can truly achieve that digital transformation that we're looking for. What we don't want to do is just take a flawed paper process and turn it into a flawed electronic process. We actually want to try to add more value. And so what can we do to do that? Well, Liferay Commerce is going to have access to all of this information, so your sales reps should more easily be able to see things like purchase history and what products are most popular. So we're trying to give our sales reps more insights, and we're trying to give the company more insights as well. One of the things that we've done with Commerce, I think that helps with this and that makes a lot of this possible is the concept of accounts. So I think all of us, whether we have internal customers or external customers, we all have customers at the end of the day. And if you've ever tried to model those customers with your organization, usually I have kind of two ways of doing it. One, you start with a Liferay organization up at the top level, that is your corporate level, and then you go division and department and maybe into territories. And eventually, you kind of cross over and have your accounts or your customers maybe in that same organization structure. Another way to do it might be to have multiple organization structures, one for my customers and then a separate organization structure for my internal. And neither one of those is really ideal. The first one, you end up with having to do some hacks to make sure that you're controlling visibility so that this part of the organization can see something and that part can't. If you're keeping them fully separated, then you're losing out on some of the power that you get by associating organizations with customers. And so with Liferay Commerce, we introduced the concept of an account. And an account can be associated with an organization, but it's a separate entity. It's a separate data model. And with accounts, what we can do is define all the information about the account, the members of the account, and the relationship between an account and an organization. We can then put employees into that organization with a role, something like a sales agent role. And now that sales agent can see what the customer sees. So when they log in, we can have a single view that customer and internal employee can see. But remember, we're building on top of Liferay DXP, so we get all of the good things that DXP offers, all of the permissions and widgets. So if you do want to create an enriched view for your customers, you can do that as well. Add additional widgets to the page, control the permissions, and now you can have one place where internal and external can come together. Commerce also provides an account selector. The account selector would allow that sales agent to assume the role or to basically impersonate a member of that account. So you have a sales agent and he or she is assigned to 3 accounts. When they go in, they'll be able to find those accounts, select one of them, and once they've selected an account, they're basically acting on behalf of that account. They're going to see whatever pricing is available to that customer. So again, B2B, we typically have different contracts for different customers, different pricing, different product visibility. Once you select that account selector, you're seeing the exact same thing that the customer is seeing as well. You're also drilling down into just that customer's order history. You can go in and act on behalf of that customer. So maybe as a sales agent, maybe you fill up a shopping cart with the items that customer has been looking at, apply some discounts. Then when the customer logs in, he or she can see that shopping cart and complete the rest of their transaction. Or maybe you complete the transaction for them. Maybe the customer's having some connectivity problems and they need to get this order done right away. It's very easy for a sales rep to go in and take that cart and walk it through the rest of the transaction process. Okay. Organization management, this is a new feature. So the accounts have been around for a while. We've added some widgets to make accounts more powerful. One of them is this organization management widget, and this is available for subscribers. And this allows you to visualize that entire organization. So I can see my organizations, I can drill down into the organizations, and I can see where my organization, maybe my territories, map over to accounts. And then when I go into the accounts, I can see which buyers are in that account and what are their roles. And again, Liferay, we talk a lot about roles and workflows and all of that. If you're familiar with how that works in DXP, then you're already familiar with how that works in Commerce. So it's very easy to see who are my buyers, who are my order managers, who are my account admins, all of that from the organization management widget. Now, in addition to better managing that account and that organization, we're also trying to digitally enable our sales reps to be more productive. And if your sales reps are like pretty much any other sales rep in the world, they are probably overworked, or at least they say they're overworked. They have too many accounts. They can't give the accounts the attention that they deserve. And so Liferay Commerce can help with that. We're using machine learning to look at an account's order history and the health of that order history. So if you have a customer that is ordering some consumables every month, and suddenly we detect that that order level is going down or there's some kind of anomaly, we can now flag that customer and send a notification to the sales agent that's assigned to that customer and just give them a little nudge and say, hey, let's take a look at this. We want to go in there and find out why is that order level dropping. Is the customer, shopping around for a competitor? Is the customer going through some difficulties? So again, we're trying to empower our sales reps to be truly sales consultants. Let them know when there's an issue, let them get involved, and hopefully rescue that account, get that account back on the way up. We've also included some account dashboards, and again, there'll be more dashboards coming in the future, but just some more information about order history. What is the customer's total spend? What kinds of order sizes are we seeing? And again, all of this is going to be tied to that account selector and is going to be permissioned, so you would have to be a sales agent in the right organization that's associated to the right account so you can see that data that you're allowed to see. Moving on to the last section I wanted to cover, and that was data integration. So commerce, just like any other enterprise application, really increases in value when it can talk to and integrate with other applications. And I think with commerce, there's a lot of very common integration scenarios that you're going to look at. You're going to have your back-end order system. You're going to have your CRM. You're going to have inventory. You may have a product information management system or a PIM. And so with commerce, we want to make that integration as easily as possible. We're doing that in a couple of different ways. We have some productized connectors that we are releasing. So we have a connector for Salesforce. We are working on connectors for other ERP systems. But we're not going to be able to have connectors to every single product that is out there. There are just too many of those products. And so what we're going to be doing is focusing on how to make it as easy as possible for you, the developer, to build the integrations that your company needs. Okay. The core technology that makes all of this possible is the Headless APIs, and so if you've been in other presentations, you've been hearing more and more about Headless APIs. Liferay Commerce being a new product, we're kind of on the cutting edge of that larger initiative across Liferay. We've been headless from the very beginning. With our Headless APIs, we have two kind of broad categories of Headless APIs. We have our administrative APIs and our delivery APIs. All of the administrative APIs that are out there right now, they're all open API. You can go to Swagger Hub and take a look at them. And then we'll also have delivery APIs that will make it easier for you to build something like a digital storefront consuming the data from our system. So the Headless APIs are kind of the key. That's the starting point. And if that was all we delivered, that would still be a pretty good integration story. But we also give you tools that make it easier to work with those Headless APIs. So we have two tools that we kind of endorse. One is Talend Open Studio, the other is MuleSoft. And these are tools, again, these are tools that they're not going to give you anything that you couldn't get on your own, just working directly with the Headless APIs, but they're going to make it easier. So out of the box, if you're using Talend, you're going to get connectors to talk to Liferay's endpoints. You also have connectors out of the box to talk to other business applications, like Salesforce, for example, or if you want to connect to a database, all the connectors are there. And so it really becomes kind of a drag and drop exercise. Drag and drop the different connectors, make the connections, upload the mapping tables. So what we're doing and what we like to say is, Talend and MuleSoft as well, it's kind of the same process, are just really making it much easier to do what was difficult maybe in the past, and maybe even making it possible to do things that were nearly impossible. Depending on the scenario, it may even be possible to take some of this and push it all the way down to a business user. So if there is a mapping table that needs to get updated, this is a much easier and friendlier interface than trying to have them go into a config file and redeploy code. So we have Talend, we have MuleSoft. Both of these are really design time tools, so you'll use these as you're designing your integration job. You'll export the job from in this case, Talend Open Studio. You export a job, you deploy it into Liferay, and then Liferay Commerce, if you're on the Enterprise Edition, has a data integration admin widget. So in the control panel, you'll find data integration admin, and it can be used to schedule these jobs. So you can set up a cron job, have this run nightly, weekly, every 15 minutes, whatever's appropriate. You can set up different parameters so that this job is aware of the last time it was run. So I can do a diff. I'm not necessarily importing all of my products every 15 minutes. I'm just finding the new products, or maybe I'm exporting the new orders that have happened since the last time ran successfully. So again, data integration, even if you're not using the rest of Commerce, if you are dealing with accounts, if you're dealing with products, and you want to bring those things into your DXP platform and make them available to your end users, data integration admin comes with Liferay Commerce, and it can make that job a lot easier. This is just maybe an example of what you might see in a typical Commerce implementation, where we have our CRM, in this case, either Salesforce or SAP maybe is our CRM. That's where all of our accounts are coming from. We're importing those through our Headless APIs, using those connectors. Pricing is coming from our ERP system, so we will soon have a connector for SAP. Product information management system is giving us some product details, but then again, Liferay has a lot of tools to enrich maybe that basic information that's coming from your PIM system, and then ultimately we make those products available either through a Liferay site. So again, back to those channels, we have a Liferay site, we have a B2B site, a B2C site, or maybe to an external storefront as well, something like Shopify. Okay. Looking ahead, get a lot of questions about the roadmap. So I will say that the Commerce roadmap is much more fluid than the DXP roadmap. It's a smaller product, it's a newer product, and so we are a lot more responsive based on what customers need. The Q1 roadmap is pretty much what you're going to see, I think, is what you're going to get. We're going to be doing a lot to improve the admin UI. If you look at the current admin UI, it was developed by a back-end developer, and he will probably tell you that it needed some help. And so we've had our designers working on it, trying to create a better user experience, make it a little more intuitive to be able to use that. We're improving our support for integrating with other sales channels, and so we'll be able to create a channel and point it to some of those online marketplaces, and hopefully you'll continue to see more and more connectors available for different marketplaces. We're also doing some things to make it easier to improve your recurring revenue, basically around subscriptions, recurring orders. That should be a lot easier and be able to handle more complex cases. And then we're going to be continually providing more accelerators. So the next accelerator that's going to come in the next version is going to be a telecom-specific accelerator. If you're not familiar with accelerators, those are basically like site initializers, but they have a lot more functionality as well. And the idea is that you use an initializer or an accelerator to get your initial site set up. Then you can apply your own theme. You can drag and drop the widgets a little bit. But when you start with Commerce and when you start with an accelerator, you're not starting with a blank slate. You're starting with a storefront that has all of the tools that you need, and then you can go in and manipulate them. Okay. Q3 and Q1 of 2021, those are a little bit more flexible. So if you are interested in Commerce, if you have needs, let us know. If you're a partner and you're working with customers and you're saying, hey, if we had this feature, this implementation could happen. We're trying to be as responsive as we can. So we have some things that we have in our roadmap that we plan on building, but the further out we go, the more flexible we are. So we really need feedback from you to let us know what you need and what you want. Okay. I had to add this slide this morning. We just recently introduced this. A lot of people have been looking for Commerce documentation, and we have not had Commerce 2.0 documentation. We've only had Commerce 1. So now Commerce 2.0 documentation is here. This is the new home for it, learn.liferay.com. Go, check it out. Let us know what's good, what's bad, what we're missing. I know there are still some gaps. I went and looked this morning to see if the bill of materials was fully documented, and it's not. But I'm going to work with the team and make sure we get some information up there. But learn.liferay.com, that should be your new home for all Commerce documentation going forward. Okay. I think about out of time. Thank you. After the presentation, I'll be out there at the Liferay table if you have any specific questions. I would love to talk to you a little bit more. If you're interested in Commerce, or if you're already in the implementation, I'd love to hear how it's going. So, thank you.